Pablo Escobar, a name that echoes through the annals of criminal history. Just his name makes people feel afraid, curious, and like they can't believe he was real. His legacy is one of both infamy and fascination, a paradox that continues to captivate the world. He went from being poor to one of the most powerful criminals ever. Born in the slums of Medellin, Escobar's rise to power was meteoric, fueled by ambition and ruthlessness. He was a mean drug lord, a tricky businessman, a hero to some people, and a scary figure to many. His duality made him a complex character, both loved and loathed. Escobar's story is complicated, full of ambition, greed, violence, and a messed-up idea of helping people. He built schools and hospitals, yet his empire was soaked in blood. He was a product of where he grew up, a man who took advantage of a country struggling with poverty, corruption, and unfairness. Colombia's social issues provided fertile ground for his rise. For over 10 years, Escobar's Medellin cartel ran the world's cocaine trade. His network was vast, reaching across continents and affecting countless lives. His power went from the poor areas of Medellin to the streets of Miami, affecting everyone. The ripple effects of his actions were felt globally, altering the course of history. He got super rich, but his empire was built on blood and suffering. The opulence of his lifestyle stood in stark contrast to the misery he caused. This is the story of Pablo Escobar, how his criminal empire grew and fell, and what he left behind that still makes people fascinated and horrified. His life is a testament to the extremes of human ambition and the devastating impact of unchecked power. Pablo Emilio Escobar Gaviria was born in 1949 in the small town of Rio Negro, Colombia. Nestled in the lush green mountains, Rio Negro was a place of both beauty and hardship. The town's picturesque landscapes belied the struggles of its inhabitants, who often faced economic challenges. His family didn't have much money. They lived a modest life, with just enough to get by. The Escobar family, like many others in the region, had to work hard to make ends meet. His dad was a farmer, and his mum was a teacher. His father toiled in the fields, cultivating crops to feed the family, while his mother dedicated herself to educating the local children, instilling in them the value of knowledge and perseverance. Life was hard, and young Pablo learned how to survive on the streets. The rough environment taught him resilience and resourcefulness from an early age. He quickly understood that to get ahead, he needed to be both clever and bold. Even as a kid, Escobar was smart and wanted more than his simple life could give him. He was always looking for opportunities, dreaming of a future where he could rise above his circumstances and achieve something greater. He started small, doing minor crimes like stealing tombstones and selling illegal cigarettes. These early ventures into crime were his first steps into a world that promised more than just survival. It promised power and wealth. This showed he was daring and ambitious, which would be important later. His willingness to take risks and his ambition to succeed set him apart from his peers, marking him as someone destined for more. As a teenager, Escobar moved to the growing city of Medellin. The bustling urban environment offered new opportunities and challenges, a stark contrast to the rural life he had known. The city, with its busy streets and hidden criminal activity, became his place to learn. Medellin was a melting pot of cultures and influences, and it was here that Escobar began to understand the complexities of the criminal underworld. He got more involved in crime, stealing cars and working as a bodyguard. These activities not only provided him with income, but also with valuable connections and insights into the workings of organized crime. He learned the rules of the criminal world and started to like having power. The sense of control and influence he gained was intoxicating, fueling his desire to climb higher in the criminal hierarchy. These early experiences shaped how Escobar saw the world and started his future empire. They taught him that power and wealth were attainable, but only through cunning, ruthlessness, and an unyielding drive. He saw a chance to make a lot of money selling cocaine and realized that real power wasn't about small crimes, but about controlling something the whole world wanted. This realization set him on a path that would eventually make him one of the most notorious figures in history. In the 1970s, the cocaine trade started in Colombia. Escobar, now a serious criminal, saw how much money he could make. He wanted to build something big. With a few friends, Escobar started the Medellin cartel. They controlled everything about the cocaine trade, from making it in the Colombian jungles to smuggling it into the United States. They were very efficient and very mean. Escobar was charismatic and ambitious, and people wanted to join him. He hired chemists, pilots, and tough guys, building a huge group of loyal followers. He knew loyalty was important and paid his people well. In just a few years, the Medellin cartel became the biggest cocaine dealer in the world. Escobar, the leader, became known as El Patron, the king of cocaine. He got the money and power he wanted, but his empire was built on violence and corruption, which would eventually destroy it. By the early 1980s, Pablo Escobar was one of the richest men in the world. He had billions of dollars, more money than most people can imagine. Money wasn't important to him just for buying things. It was a way to control people and get what he wanted. Escobar showed off his wealth with huge houses, private zoos, and lots of airplanes and helicopters. Some people saw him as a hero because he built schools and hospitals in poor neighborhoods. His picture was everywhere in Medellin, but even though he did some good things, Escobar was very cruel. He bribed politicians, judges, and police, making sure he was above the law. What he said went. Escobar wanted to be respected, to be part of the normal world that didn't accept him. He even became a politician for a short time, but he could never be truly respected because of all the bad things he had done. Pablo Escobar's power came from violence. He believed in scaring people and used it to get rid of enemies, make people be quiet, and scare anyone who disagreed with him. Silver or lead was his scary motto. Take his money or face the consequences, which usually meant death. Judges, journalists, politicians, and regular people were all victims of his terror. Medellin became a war zone. Car bombs exploded all the time, dead bodies were everywhere, and everyone was afraid. Escobar's violence was extreme, and even his closest friends were scared of him. One of the worst things he did was bomb Avianca Flight 203 in 1989. The bombing killed 110 people and was meant to kill a politician running for president. This act of terror shocked everyone and made people hate Escobar. The violence of the Medellin cartel got so bad that it couldn't continue. The Colombian government, with pressure from the United States, finally decided to stop Escobar. A special police group, Search Block, was created just to catch or kill Pablo Escobar. They were very well trained and determined to bring him to justice. It became a game of cat and mouse, with Escobar always one step ahead. He was great at hiding, using safe houses, informants, and his teenage assassins called sicarios, who did whatever he said. The hunt for Escobar took over Colombia. His face was on wanted posters everywhere, with rewards offered for information. The government wanted to end his reign of terror, and they were getting closer to catching him. On December 2nd, 1993, Pablo Escobar's reign of terror ended. After a 16-month hunt, he was found in a normal neighborhood in Medellin. Escobar, hiding in a regular house with his bodyguard, tried to escape across rooftops as Search Block closed in. There was a shootout and Escobar was shot and killed. His body lay on a rooftop and his empire was destroyed. The news of Escobar's death shocked Colombia. Some people were sad, remembering the good things he did and seeing him as a symbol against a corrupt government. Others were happy, relieved that the terror was finally over. Pablo Escobar's death was the end of an era, but the damage he caused is still felt in Colombia. What he left behind is complicated. He was a terrible criminal, but some people still like him. Escobar's violence hurt Colombian society deeply. Thousands of people died because of him, victims of car bombs, assassinations, and his cruelty. The effects of this violence are still seen today. The cocaine trade, although weaker after Escobar's death, is still a problem in Colombia. New cartels have taken over, continuing the cycle of violence and corruption that Escobar started. Even with all the bad things he did, some people in Medellin still see Escobar as a hero. They remember him building schools and hospitals and think he was a product of a corrupt system that didn't give poor people many choices. People all over the world are still fascinated and horrified by Pablo Escobar's story. His life, filled with ambition, greed, and violence, has become a legend that transcends borders and cultures. His rise from a small-time criminal to the head of the Medellin cartel is a tale that has captivated millions. The sheer scale of his operations and the audacity of his actions have made him a figure of both fear and fascination. Books, movies, and TV shows continue to explore his complicated life and the lasting effects of his crimes. From documentaries to dramatic series, the media has dissected every aspect of his life, trying to understand the man behind the myth. The Netflix show Narcos, where I played Escobar, introduced his story to a new generation, causing discussions and making people rethink his impact on Colombia and the world. The show brought to light the complexities of his character and the far-reaching consequences of his actions. You can even find Escobar's face on t-shirts, mugs, and Halloween costumes. This commercialization of his image raises questions about our society's fascination with notorious figures. This weird interest in a ruthless criminal makes us think about why we are so interested in outlaws and the difference between being famous for bad things and being a hero. It challenges us to reflect on our values and the stories we choose to glorify. Pablo Escobar's story reminds us that people can be both good and evil. His life is a stark reminder of the duality of human nature and the thin line between right and wrong. It's a story that still matters today, a warning about the appeal of power, the bad effects of greed, and how violence can last for a long time. Escobar's legacy is a testament to the enduring impact of crime and the importance of remembering history to avoid repeating its darkest chapters.